Okay, this is a perfect opportunity for Dr. Paul Copan.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Frank. Thanks for a great presentation as well.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I argue in the book, 𝗧𝗔𝗫-𝗏𝗏monster and 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 is that in the ancient Near East, they had what's called a kind of trash talk, where you used hyperbole, just like we will in our sports imagery, where we totally annihilated those guys, we totally destroyed them. That's the kind of language that was used in the ancient Near East, where you have, it'll mention man, woman, young and old. Well, what's going on? Well, typically these wars were with combatants rather than non-combatants. I was talking with Frank earlier at dinner, and I gave him an example where in Deuteronomy, which really ramps up that language, it uses a lot of rhetoric, war-type rhetoric, totally annihilated those guys. What you see is, in Numbers 21, for example, you have these two kings, these two Amorite kings, who are fighting. The king, his sons, his army, they're fighting against the Israelites because the Israelites want to pass through peacefully, and they're not allowed. So it says that the Israelites defeated them, and so it was a great victory. Well, you read later on in Deuteronomy, chapters 2 and 3, which recounts that battle, which is just between combatants, but it throws in that language of man, woman, young and old for rhetorical purposes, is that ancient Near Eastern trash talk. And you look at the book of Joshua, you see that we left no survivors in this particular city. A couple of chapters later, those people are in that city. So you'll have that kind of language that is being used. With the same sort of language with 1 Samuel 15, the Amalekites. The narrator says Saul, quote, utterly destroyed the Amalekites. Well, what happened? Well, we read later on that, at the end of the book of 1 Samuel, that same book, David is fighting against the Amalekites. There are clearly a lot of Amalekites around, and so there are a lot of rhetorical devices that are being used in these narratives that's part of that ancient Near Eastern trash talk. There's a lot more that could be unpacked, but maybe those are just a few examples that give you an idea that there's a lot of hyperbole, exaggeration that's going on in the Old Testament. And that's just part of the way things were in the ancient Near East, where people say, we turned them to ash. There were no survivors. Only Pharaoh was left, and so forth. So that's a little bit of the, just a little example of how that works. But I'll turn it over to you again.
Thank you, Dr. Copan.